All right, welcome, Jason and Kevin, our city council candidates for District 5. We will start with Jason, and we would love to hear just a quick 2-minute introduction of yourself for our audience.
Absolutely, and I'd love to give it. Thank you very much for having me. My name is Jason Norwood. I'm the son of Dr. John R. Norwood and the son of Tanya Norwood. The reason I mention them is because my father's a minister, and he is the one who set about creating the person that you see before you, along with my mother, who was a social worker for the majority of my life. They gave me the understanding of what service was, and so I used that understanding to then go be a graduate of the United States Military Academy at West Point, commonly referred to as West Point. I'm a veteran of the Operation in Iraqi Freedom. I've been a director at several different levels, a commander at 3 different occasions at 2 different installations. I'm sitting on here, the Citizens Advisory Council for the school board, for school bond, excuse me. I am extremely biased, but have 2 of the most beautiful women in the world as my daughters, and I'm married to one of the most wonderful women in the world, my wife, who is a part of the president of McCoy PTA, treasurer for Forbes PTA, and on GISD PTA Council. I'm director, like I said, of a nonprofit that works in Killeen. I'm a small business owner and a partner of a small business that's here in Georgetown and has been for quite some time. I actually just got here after supervising a CPS visitation. So I'm very much involved in making the world, or trying to make the world a better place, one individual at a time. I'm also a graduate student in a master's program in counseling at Texas A&M. I am here for honor, accountability, and transparency. It is that simple. The why of why I do anything is honestly my 2 daughters. It's the reason I'm still alive. It's the reason I wake up every morning and I take a breath of air, God giving me that opportunity. But the reality is that I need to bring that transparency to our operations here because it hasn't been. And that's my job. Representative democracy only works if your representatives take your needs and make them their own. That's what I will do.
Thank you, Kevin.
Well, thank you. First, I'd like to thank Jason for his service. If it wasn't for folks like yourself, we wouldn't be able to be here today. So thank you
for paying your taxes.
My name is Kevin Pitts. I'm the current Georgetown City Council member for District 5. I'm also the Mayor Pro Tem. I am married to my wife, Megan. I have 2 daughters, Harper and Everly, 7 and 4. Harper is at McCoy, probably with Jason's daughter. And so we moved here in 2013. I started working here in Georgetown in 2011. I commuted from Temple back and forth for 2 years prior to buying a home here and moving here. And once I moved here, started working at the bank, I pretty much just said yes to everything. If there was a board I could get on, I said yes to it. If there was an event going on, I said yes to it. I joined Rotary. I got on the chamber board. I chaired the chamber golf tournament. I eventually got on the Planning and Zoning Commission and the Zoning Board of Adjustments. And I still haven't learned the word no, even though I've been told that that's a very important word to learn, but I am still working on that. After attending the leadership program here with the chamber, I learned more about the city, how things worked, how to get involved, and I wanted to have an impact on the city. I wanted to be involved and make sure that whenever my daughters were older, they could look back and know that it was important what I did, and that it was important that they do exactly those types of things and get involved in the community, and you help your neighbors, you help the community. And so at the leadership program, at the very last day, graduation, you're required to give a commitment. What are you going to be? You went through this whole program. What are you going to commit to do now? What are you going to do to make the community better? I made 2 commitments. One was to, I wanted to get on the Georgetown Chamber of Commerce board, which happened about 2 months later. And the other was to run for Georgetown City Council at some point. And in 2018, I hit that goal. I made the commitment, and I believe it was 13 is when I graduated. And I ran in 2018. I was unopposed, and I've been on now for 3 years. I've enjoyed my time. I look forward to serving another 3 years. And I'd ask for your vote on May 1st, or early voting starts April 19th.
Thank you both very much. As I've done with the other candidates, we'll alternate who starts the question, but you'll both answer the same question. Starting with you, of course, Jason. What is your ideal vision for the future of economic development in Georgetown?
So Georgetown is getting bigger, and I think that that's a good thing. I think we all agree that that's a good thing, but the economic development cannot outpace the people. When I was a back when I was a cadet at West Point, they teach you that the commissioned officers are to worry about the mission and the non-commissioned officers are worried about people. But I often came to the conclusion that without the people, the mission is impossible. So the economic development of Georgetown needs to be tied to a program that cares for the individuals, cares for the people, and provides the things that they need, like attainable housing, like an education system that is operable and maximized for the children of the area, for those kids, like a program for parks and recreation that does those types of things. That's my idea of economic development. I have a small business, and so I want to see that business grow, but I cannot see it grow at the expense of an individual.
Kevin, your vision, please, for the future of economic development in Georgetown.
Well, my vision of economic development is to have what's really going to end up being an unobtainable goal, but I would love for every resident of Georgetown to be able to work in Georgetown and not have to drive south out there to Austin, be stuck in traffic. We have, this past year, we did a groundbreaking for our first major industrial park that will have I believe it's first round's $98 million in investment just from one of the very first building that's going to be built. So there'll be a number of employees over there. They haven't given us the exact number because they're not sure who all is going to occupy the buildings. But in my time on council, I've supported projects that we've had $68 million just this past year, $68 million in private investment and created over 700 jobs in Georgetown. I plan to continue to support projects such as that and try to continue to build more jobs, create more jobs here in Georgetown so residents in Georgetown can work and live in Georgetown.
Thank you. Going first to you on this one, Kevin. A council member is elected by the voters of their district, but each district also has businesses who employ our citizens, provide sales tax to the city, and pay taxes. How do you envision balancing the interests of citizens with the businesses in your district?
Since I've been elected, I've treated every resident, whether they're a District 5 resident or a district, you name it, resident, the same. If they reach out to me, I try to help them. And you can see that it's out there for you to see on during the storm. I had plenty of people in the southeast part of Georgetown reaching out to me, needing help, and I was helping those folks. The businesses, I've just recently started trying to do a new series with a council update, and I've bounced around the different businesses to promote those businesses. I've helped the businesses downtown get outdoor seating so that way they can expand their capacity during COVID-19. During the Atmos gas leak, we helped relieve some of the policies on the signage to help the businesses down there. So I think my track record speaks for itself on how I represent the cities, the businesses, along with all residents of the city of Georgetown.
Thank you, Kevin. Question to you, Jason. How do you envision balancing the interests of citizens of your district with the businesses within your district?
So thank you. And I believe I alluded to that answer a little bit earlier. One of the reasons that I'm running is because I reached out to the city council and I was not responded to. And so one of the first things that I did was when I started running was put my phone number out there. It's for everybody to reach 254-419-9371. You can give me a call. That's how dedicated I am to the people of this area because I believe in service. Similarly, as a person who works with small business, it is incredibly important to me that businesses thrive. We are part of it. I work with my old first sergeant from when I was in command. It is dire for our families that our businesses thrive. So I believe that it is very easy if you have the time, wherewithal, and the care to balance the issues between families, individuals, and businesses if you're willing to make the time to communicate and put all of their priorities out in front. And that's what I do.
Thank you. Jason, continuing on questions about business, what's the biggest concern you've heard from businesses and how do you plan to address those?
One of the biggest concerns rather that I've heard from businesses is really, and I'm happy we're getting to this, to get into the mobility bond, is access, mobility, people being able to get around. I know for my business that has preferential treatment when there's foot traffic in that area. That's a very big concern to us as well. The ability to move around Georgetown, to see all of the businesses, things like that. We are fortunate enough to not have an overwhelming tax burden. At our business location, Georgetown doesn't have overwhelmingly high taxes, and that's good too for businesses. But the ability to get out and have people be known about your business and be able to get to your business is a significant concern. It's one of the reasons that I happen to be in support of the bond, but we'll definitely get to that question later.
Kevin, what is the biggest concern you've heard from businesses? How do you plan to address those concerns?
Yeah, I think that it varies based on where the business is. So there are some businesses that have issues with parking, like downtown, for example. Wolf Ranch businesses don't have those same type of issues. There's a very large parking lot there for their patrons to park in. Obviously, the folks on Williams Drive, one of their major issues in the recent past was the Atmos gas leak. That was devastating to many of those businesses. They were closed. They couldn't even go into their buildings. Then obviously COVID-19 has created other concerns. All of those issues are issues that I have advocated to find solutions for them. I already mentioned that outdoor downtown seating. I've already mentioned the gas leak on Williams and some of the things that the city did. And when it comes to the downtown parking, we've got a question. You asked the last candidates. I don't know if you'll ask us, but I was an advocate for the parking garage at the time, and I'm still an advocate to try to get more parking downtown to keep people out of the neighborhoods and to help people get down to our downtown square and spend money with our local businesses.
Going in another direction, Kevin, what is your vision for public transportation in Georgetown?
I would say right now my vision for public transportation is there's not any public transportation in Georgetown. We have a GoGeo bus system. I don't believe it will be. I don't believe we'll have it much longer. If anybody in this room just pays attention to the bus driving by, there's usually at least one person in the bus, and it's the driver. Every now and then there's another person in there with them. The bus system has not hit any of the benchmarks that were originally set by it. It was supposed to be a 3-year program, and then review it after that. It's been reviewed. It's not been successful. Governmental programs don't need to last in perpetuity. If they do not work, we need to kill it. We need to put the money back to the taxpayers to spend it on something that is needed, which obviously a public transit system is not needed now because it's not been successful and it appears no one's riding it. Or we need to give the money back to the taxpayers through lowering taxes.
Thank you, Jason. What is your vision for public transportation in Georgetown?
Thank you for that question. My issue with the fact that I concur that currently public transportation in Georgetown is not being utilized, but that would bring me to the question of why. I was medically retired as a major in the United States Army, and anybody will tell you majors are planners. We plan. I planned at the Corps level 4 different installations together. I think that the reason that the public transportation didn't work in Georgetown is because it wasn't planned properly. We need to do a much better job of planning. And that's one of the things that I excel at because it was forced down my throat to excel at it. I had to for people to survive, and they did. And so I became good at it. And that's really what we need to do when it comes to the public transportation system in Georgetown. We need to look at it better and we need to plan it. My mother-in-law now lives in Georgetown. She doesn't like to drive at night. I want her to be able to utilize public transportation if it could be available, but we need to plan it better so that it meets the needs of the people that use it. There's no other reason to have it. Thank you.
Jason, you mentioned the mobility bond, and we're not going to specifically address that, but over the coming years, there are going to be multiple infrastructure projects throughout the community. Those projects are going to impact businesses. How do you plan to work with contractors and city staff to ensure the businesses don't have another unnecessary burden on their operations?
Communication, communication, communication. I am currently in a master's program for counseling. And one of the big things that goes with counseling is being able to communicate, being able to listen. The reason I put out my phone number is because I want people to call me. I want to listen. I want to hear what the problems are. I want to be able to not only have a bird's eye view of what's going on when infrastructure plans are being executed, but be able to get down to what we would call normally the tactical level and see exactly why that dumpster is blocking the entrance for the parking lot for that. For those businesses over there. Let's move that. Can we do something about that? Call me. I'll make it happen. My wife will tell you I don't sleep much. So I have the time, the wherewithal, and the bandwidth to make those conversations, to have that communication, and to go out and make those changes. Communication is how we fix that problem. I'm a communicator.
Thank you, Kevin. Same question to you. How do you plan to work with contractors and city staff to ensure businesses don't have another unnecessary burden on their operation from the infrastructure projects?
Well, the first part of this question is really about the role of a council member. It's not the role of a council member to work with contractors who the city contracts with to do jobs. So I won't be doing anything with contractors because that's not within my role. What is within my role is to set the budget in the city of Georgetown, which includes our capital improvements. We have what's called a 5-year CIP plan, capital improvement plan, that we program in improvements over that 5-year period. So one thing that we could do to make sure no one has an undue burden is to ensure that we're not putting all of the projects in one area in any given year or repeatedly, excuse me. So for example, a great example was discussed quite a bit during the road bond discussion or the transportation bond discussion was the Austin Avenue bridges. So right now, COVID-19, the pandemic, people are trying to recover still from that, making the bridge one lane each way could hurt people getting downtown or slow people from coming downtown, which could hurt our businesses. So we need to make sure we're programming our capital improvements equitably across the city so that way no business is just getting hit over and over with those.
Thank you very much. Question comes to you, Kevin. The Chamber of Commerce surveyed our members, and 80% of those surveyed agreed or strongly agreed that government should avoid action that unnecessarily raises the cost of housing so that our housing is as obtainable as possible for the community's workforce. Based on these results, how can local government avoid action that unnecessarily raises the cost of housing?
Well, unnecessarily is a relative word, so it's hard to say what is necessary and what is unnecessary. We just passed transportation impact fees. The second reading was 2 nights ago. What is tonight? Tonight Wednesday? Tonight's Thursday. Tonight's Thursday. 2 nights ago, we passed traffic impact fees. So developers on future developments will pay in a fee that will go into a fund that will then improve roads or build new roads in certain areas, depending upon where the development is. So I guess I would have to ask back, I know you're not answering questions, was that a necessary fee? Because that will definitely increase the cost of housing. So we have to determine, it's hard to say what is necessary and what is unnecessary, but we must be cognizant on the city council if we are concerned with affordability, that all fees that we raise, all fees we create, all of those fees are ultimately paid by the homeowner and ultimately increase the cost of housing. So if it's something that we feel is 100% necessary, then let's go with it, but we'll have that debate on the dais. So unnecessary, once again, is a relative term, so that's a very difficult question to answer there.
Jason, your thoughts on how local government can avoid action that unnecessarily raises the cost of housing?
I was very successful and have been very successful in my career up to this point. And one of the ways in which I became successful was by not assuming I'm the smartest person in the room. I said that to say this. I just got off the phone about 2 days ago with the Housing Building Association in Northern Austin. And I asked them that very same question. And they came back to me with the manner in which we have some of our requirements inside of developed areas, and how that then passes on expenses and costs to the home builder that are then passed on to the home buyer. We need to look at housing, and I've talked to a gentleman who runs a program to look at affordable and attainable housing in Georgetown. Again, because I want to have the smartest people in the room around me. We need to look at housing in a manner in which we provide deregulation is often the overused term, but a manner in which that provides the builder the opportunity to provide housing at the lowest possible expense, so the person buying it can get it at the lowest possible expense. And I think we have a lot of things that are unnecessarily attached to our costs now.
Okay, final question comes to you first, Jason. What does Preserve Georgetown mean to you, and how would you activate that if you were elected?
So Preserve Georgetown, I'm really happy you mentioned this. I went to a school, my high school graduated a class of 217. By the time my younger brother graduated 10 years later, the class was 800. That is the growth that Georgetown is looking at. Planning is your answer, by the way. Planning. Growth is happening. We're not going to stop, and I don't really think anybody wants to stop it per se, but we need to plan to get ahead of it so that, like at my hometown school, we don't have trailers outside of the high school. We've already planned on how to deal with that growth. growth can be a great thing, right? Especially for small businesses. We want people with expendable income to come and utilize our services and businesses. That's great, but we have to plan. Planning and communication is the answer, how we keep Georgetown, Georgetown. That's one of the reasons I moved here. It's one of the reasons I was sold on this place. And that's one of the things that I will make sure maintains.
Thank you. Kevin, what does preserve Georgetown mean to you?
I think most people think of the small town charm as something that we see in our citizen survey. And so the traffic's one of the biggest things that people complain about that makes them feel like it's not Georgetown anymore. Having to sit through a red light multiple times, having to sit on 29, having to dodge traffic at Chick-fil-A parking lot, which is not a city road, by the way, that's their private property parking lot. But the one thing we need to do is if we can expand our infrastructure into areas that can handle the traffic. For example, 195, 130, up 35s in some areas. If we have water and wastewater in those areas, then development will move to those areas. Right now, why do people keep building down 29, down Williams Drive, down Leander Road? That's where the infrastructure is. That's why. So if we can find ways to free up money within our budget, if we can find ways to recruit good businesses here or development here that will help pay for the extension of those utilities, that will take the stress off of the roads and the infrastructure that we currently have, which will make people feel like they're still in small town Georgetown.
Very good. Thank you. And that brings us to our final minute. And Kevin, I'm going to have you go first with your final comments.
Well, thank you. Thank you for having me, and thank you everyone who came. I've enjoyed my first term on council. I don't know what's wrong with me. People always ask, why do you do that? It's a thankless job. And I don't know. I tell them I can't really tell you. I must have something wrong with me because I have enjoyed it. I've figured out, there's one thing that's really important on council, and that's how do you get 3 other people to agree with you? If you want to get anything done, doesn't matter what you want to do, doesn't matter. If 3 other people don't agree with you, you ain't getting it done. But then even more important than that is you got to get whatever that is you want to get done has to show up on an agenda. It doesn't just magically show up there. You can't do it on your own. You have to have at least one other person to put an item on the agenda, but it's got to be up for a vote before it can ever actually be done. In my 3 years on council this first term, I've illustrated the ability to not only get items that are important to me on the agenda, but also to get them passed. And so if you live in District 5, if you want to continue to have an effective council member who gets stuff done, you need to vote for me on May 1st.
Thank you. And final comments to you, Jason.
Thank you so much. I'll stand for this. I really appreciate the opportunity that everybody's given me to be here. I really appreciate everybody for coming. The be all and end all is that I am a leader of teams. I've shown that over my life, and I've dedicated my service to not just my country, but my community. My family has been about that for the entire existence of us as a family as well. I say all that to say this. I want to communicate with the people of District 5, and I want to win their vote because they know that I will work for them. I'm going to work. I'm going to be a public servant. That's what God put me here to do that. But I want to be a public servant for you because I know that I can communicate. I know that I can make people, I shouldn't say make anybody, but I can convince people to be on my side and to come to consensus about things that are just smart decisions for our community. That's the only reason that I'm here. That's the reason that I want to be your district representative, and that's why you should vote for me on May 1st. I thank everyone for the opportunity. God bless you and have a wonderful evening.
Thank you very much, Jason and Kevin, and thank you to all of our candidates and to our audience for some wonderful questions and for your full attention.